Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Good evening. I hope you like our new entrance. This is a show where mentors help modelers build. Thank you so much for coming this evening. Hope you come back often and hope you tell your friends about us. Now I'd like to get our quick tip for the evening from Paul Thompson. Paul, welcome.
Great, thank you, Jim. Let me see if I can get my screen up real quick. And I just thought tonight that I would point out something that I've found. I hope everybody can see that. This is a product that's put out by Micromart. It blackens things, and a lot of times you'll buy brass parts that you need to blacken, springs or who knows what that you can try. I'll give you an example of what I put it on. If this will, I can't seem to get this up tonight. But anyway, I blackened a couple of articles with it. I had a picture of a bridge here that I blackened some brass rod on, and doesn't seem to, there we go. As you can see, it does quite a nice job. After that, of course, you can rust it or do whatever, and I weathered it a little bit afterwards. But it's a bit of a solution for something that where you don't want to use paint, or paint will rub off too easily, or whatever, perhaps a moving part, wheels, etc. So it's just something to look into. There's about 4 different shades of it. The one I used was the pewter black, and I found it to be quite nice. I got it out of Micromart, and it's not that expensive. Thanks, guys. That's my tip for the night.
So Paul, thank you so very much. And it really is a good product. I've used it myself, and you use it on places where you just don't want to paint it. The paint won't stay on it. Thanks so much, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Next, I want to point out another special project that we've got coming up that's going to start the first time next week. And this is Daryl Jacobs of Interaction Hobbies is going to start a series called The Art of Detail. And I really appreciate Daryl stepping forward and wanting to do this because it's designed for modelers to learn new techniques and to use new tools and products for building and adding details to bring their model railroads to a whole different level of detail. And I really appreciate Daryl doing this. And as I say, the first one will start next week, and then it'll be a weekly segment on our shows after that, the same as Paul has been doing for some time now. So with that said, I'd like to go now to Clark Cooning, MMR, for his build along of the bathroom model. Clark, welcome. Is Clark not with us this evening?
Yeah, Ken, do you see Clark? I don't see Clark.
Okay, let me go ahead and go to Speed Muller. Speed, I really appreciate you being here tonight because I've heard quite a bit about this MQ trains, and I would appreciate all the information that you can provide us for it. So welcome, Speed.
I don't think we have Speed yet either, Ken. Or
okay.
Yeah, Jim, don't have Speed yet.
Okay. Is Richard here? Do you know?
Richard is here.
Richard, then I will come to you, sir. Richard is owner of George's Trains, and it's a hobby shop. And as you know, this is part of our one of our series is talking to hobby shop owners because there's not that many of them around anymore. And the ones that are, we need to hear from and hopefully support best we can. So Richard, welcome.
We'll also be able to do speed right after Jim. He is here now.
Okay. Is Richard not here?
Richard,
you may be muted.
Yeah, I think he's muted.
Unmute. Okay, hold on. How's that?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Richard, welcome.
Yep. Thanks, Jim.
I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. We support the hobby shop industry. There's just not many of you guys around anymore.
No, we've dwindled to not that many, is from a lot over the years. And then, yeah, we're down to a few dozen or more, it seems anyway.
Listen, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your shop, where you're located, kind of things you do, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, currently we're in Markham, Ontario. We used to be in the center of Toronto for 47 years, and we moved up about 12, 13 years ago to Markham. So we're just north of Toronto. It's about a 5 or 10 minute drive just north of the city. So right looking over the CN main line. We got 2 tracks beside the window or the driveway just about. So good location. And we're turning 60 this year in June. So yeah, we've been around a while.
Well, I've heard a lot of people talk about your hobby shop and the different moves you've had to make and so forth. It must be frustrating for you a little bit.
A little bit. It was, the other store was nice, but the taxes just got a little carried away for the city. And they were pushing a business improvement area down the street, which was, as far as I was concerned, another tax. So it was all coming off the bottom end, which, you know, makes it tougher these days.
You a model railroader or a certain kind of hobbyist? What's your background?
I collect more than I do model. I collect mostly LGB. So I've been into that. And then my father had a large tin plate collection, so I have some of that as well that I managed to hang on to.
Model railroading an important part of your business?
Oh yes, that's the only thing we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have any other hobbies. We're just strictly trains.
Do you get involved at all with the different paints and this kind of thing that I keep hearing about that other hobbies are using, like the military modeler paints and that kind of thing?
We haven't done so much in the military. We have brought in an assortment of paints. It's not the easiest thing to get, and especially up in Canada, we have to truck it in. We can't just order it from Walters and have it shipped right up because they mark it as hazardous, and the carriers won't carry it across the border. So we ship to Buffalo area, and then we have it trucked up every week or two.
Ah, I see. What do you think your business challenges are in the future? What are you looking about, or what are you worried about right now, I guess?
The challenge, I think, is getting the young people involved and getting them away from the electronic video games and getting them, you know, hands-on into the hobby. Because there's a lot of things that the hobby does for you, you know, with your patience level, your fine skills, you know, just motor control, imagination. There's a lot to the whole background of the hobby. And I think kids these days are missing out on that.
You got any ideas to encourage that?
Well, we love to do more advertising, but with the manufacturers cutting the discounts to the stores back, it makes it tougher to have that extra little bit of cash to do the advertising. So I think sometimes the manufacturers may have to step it up a little more and do the advertising. We do have a sort of an attraction coming to Toronto. Well, it's been in Toronto for a little while. It's been moved to downtown Toronto, Miniature World, I think it is, Canada, which is a small version of the one that they have over in Germany. So that being downtown, I think will attract people, and they'll need someplace to go. And there's only a few of us around the Greater Toronto area that I think it'll help business. So hopefully they get up and running. But with the pandemic on, it's sort of put a bit of a damper on people coming into crowded areas and that right now.
I hear the manufacturers are really becoming, in some way, a lot of ways, maybe your competitors.
Yes, they are. That's what it seems to be, that they look for us to get their face on the market, and then they cut us either off or cut the discounts down, that it almost doesn't make worth carrying. You do it for special orders, so it's in and out, and you make a little bit on the way by, but a lot of these you can't afford to keep on the shelf for that long. 3 to 6 months and you're cut back.
Well, and I understand too that one of the policies that is hurting the hobby shop owners is the fact that you don't get advance notice, or you can't advise your customers to get advance notice for certain manufacturers' products. And by the time you find out about it, or your modelers can find out about it, it's closed out.
Yes, I've missed a number of items from a few suppliers like that they launch it, and sometimes they launch it on a Monday, which we're closed on Mondays, so I don't really pay attention to my emails and that. I like to have a couple days off and try and regroup, and just to find out later on, the next day that, oh, this model got announced, and I try to order them and they're all sold out. And that frustrates our customers too. And, because we are one of the largest around, they expect us to have it, but we can't always have control over that. And unfortunately, and sometimes I have other stores that will call me and say, hey, did you know this is coming out? Because they know I'm closed on Mondays. So
yeah,
sometimes I get that bit of help.
Well, let me ask you this. What can model railroaders do to help the hobby shop owners? I mean, because if you don't have the product, if you don't have the information, then we suffer too, we being your customer.
Right.
So to me, the more that I talk to hobby shop owners, it seems to me that we have a mutual problem here. And the problem is we either deal directly with the manufacturer, or we're just out of the loop. And
yeah,
how can we work together to try to help this situation where the hobby shop benefits, but so do the modelers that would like to use hobby shops?
Right, because eventually the hobby shops will disappear, and then when you want that bottle of paint or glue, where are you going to get that? Because the manufacturer is not going to supply that for you. So I only think the only way is communication between the modelers and the manufacturers, is to sort of write a bit of a complaint that I'd love to buy it direct from my local hobby store, but you don't seem to be able to supply them. And what is that going forward? So I think there's got to be a bit of lead time. I've suggested to some of them that they limit the number of pieces that they're allowing people to order at the beginning. So put a maximum of 6 or 10 pieces or whatever it is per item. And then if there's any left over at the end of the day or the end of the week, whatever you want to do for timeline, then call back the guys that wanted more. So everybody gets a little bit. Even if the shop's got only 2 or 3 pieces, at least you got something versus nothing.
Well, for an individual modeler to start writing the manufacturer, that's kind of like an individual person writing their congressman, it seems to me. I'm wondering if the National Retail Hobby Shop Association doesn't have a role in this somehow, to try to help both the modelers and the local hobby shop.
Yeah, well, we don't seem to be involved in that, I guess, up in Canada. There used to be an independent toy stores of Canada, I think it was, that had a little more pulling power. I don't know what happened to them. Haven't heard from them in quite some time now. But I think if enough people complained or wrote to them, I think it does speak volumes that they will listen to somewhat. You know, they could even copy the hobby shop as well. And these days with the internet, it doesn't take a lot for people to send a quick letter.
It's a good point. Let me ask you this, your Walters orders. What some of the modelers would love to be able to know when you order from Walters so that they can in effect piggyback on your order and make sure that they can call you and get their order in, you know, whenever you order. So how does that work? I mean, how can modelers accomplish this with your store?
Well, we order every Saturday.
Okay.
So because you have to have it in Walters by noon on Monday. And as I say, we're closed Mondays, so I have it in by 5 o'clock on Saturday. And then we usually have it the following Thursday or Friday. I've been coming UPS lately and they've been a little backlogged. So we used to get it religiously on Thursdays, but now it seems to trickle over to Friday some day or some weeks.
Do you notify your customers when the stuff comes in so they can come pick it up, or how does that work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we either call them or email them, depending on how they want to be communicated with.
Do you order from other suppliers other than Walters like that?
Oh, yes, regularly.
So
Yeah.
the other suppliers that you order from, then can modelers find out, you know, when those go out and piggyback on those orders too?
Yeah, there's not as regimented, but it is usually once every week to 10 days, 2 weeks, or, you know, like Horizon for Athern and Heartland. And there's some of the other shops like Mount Albert Lumber that we do, the scale lumber. And there are other weathering paints and things that Hunterline carries that we stock as well. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, from what I'm being told, shipping costs to Canada is a real problem for buyers.
It's horrendous.
You know, I don't know if there's any solution to that or not. Do you have any ideas?
Well, we currently consolidate in Buffalo and then we truck it across, but it's just jumped drastically. We had been paying somewhere in the $600 to $700 range for about 25 to 30 boxes. I just got an order in last week with 28 boxes and it jumped up to $1,000. So it's getting pricey. And that can be for either a box of magazines or a large box that's 40, 50 pounds. So I might get 6 magazines or 12 magazines in one box, and it still costs me the same for every box pretty well, except for the pounds. So it's tougher, but we're looking at other sources to see if we can somehow come down on that, because we don't incorporate that into our pricing. We generally, being Canada, we've got the dollar exchange rate to contend with. So generally, if the dollar's at 1.3, then $10 item is going to cost $13.
Right.
It's not like we tag on shipping on top of that. It's just part that's built into it for us. We just sort of absorb that.
Is this because of COVID? Why are the problems with shipping and everything all of a sudden just so critical?
I think it is COVID. Yeah, I think it started getting driven by the container shortage, and the people that had the containers, they were bumping up their prices because they knew they had supply and demand. And then a lot of the containers were coming over full, but they didn't want to send them back empty, so they sat over here for a while. So that created more of a shortage, and then a shortage of product as well. A lot of it was sitting over on the docks in China and not able to get it over here. So I think they put the prices up. They wouldn't ship partial containers anymore either, that you had to have a full container. So you either had to wait till somebody else tagged into your container and filled it up, or you had to fill it up yourself. So that made it tougher.
I don't
And-
see that problem being solved anytime soon, do you?
No, unfortunately not. No,
What about people? You having trouble finding people?
I mean, staff-wise, or
Yeah.
I'm okay with staff currently. Thankfully, I've got some good guys, and yeah, no, I think we got 5 of us currently. One just works 3 or 4 days a week, but he's my shipper, so Saturdays there's not much shipping going on anyway, because our post office isn't open up here. So yeah, we're all set for the beginning of the week, and off we go. So no, it's been doing all right that way. So I'm lucky. But we did have a time that I had one chap retire when COVID started, and he was a big help to me. And trying to find somebody to replace him that had some background knowledge of just the model railroading and the digital part of it, it was tough. And we just lucked out with a younger chap coming by, and he's been with us a little over a year now. So it's been great working out.
Well, that's fantastic, because I hear a lot of the companies are having trouble finding employees, particularly that have any knowledge at all.
Yes. And with the government subsidies up here, and I think it was the same down in the US as well, that they were making more at home sitting around watching TV than they were getting paid originally. So
Yeah.
they could just, it was tough for getting them back, because they were coming back for less money to a lot of stores or businesses, instead of just staying home and collecting their enhancement bonus payments, I guess.
Yeah. What about hands-on clinics for modelers? I hear modelers say they would really like the hobby shops to be able to offer that kind of thing. It would be an educational system for them. They used to, for example, me, I can remember I used to go to my hobby shop and just stand around and talk to the people that were there and learn a tremendous amount about modeling and how they did things and why they did certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you offer that kind of thing, or?
We do, in a way. We don't do a specific clinic. We do an ongoing building of a layout in the store. So we're continually building it up, and then when it gets to either close to finished or finished, there's always somebody waiting in line to buy it. So then we either switch scales, and it's either HO usually, but the odd N scale layout here and there, just for something different, and to open up that part of the hobby to other people. And people come in regularly to see how we're doing things, how the water's working, and the waterfall that we do. We always try and do different aspects of it, with the mount and different layers of styrofoam, and all the plaster and the static grass. So in a way, we are doing clinics steadily.
Do you have any plans maybe to increase that kind of situation for modelers?
We had talked about it, and I had one chap lined up that is a really good modeler until the pandemic came along. And hopefully we'll get back on track once things open back up again down the road. Just he was really eager to do it. He'd done a few before, because he had his own store for a while. So yeah. So hopefully in the near future, we'll be back and trying that again.
Well, that's great. The other thing, Richard, I hear from modelers is they want their hobby shop to stock the basic stuff. They want wood, they want paint, they want track, they want the basics of model railroading. They don't expect the hobby shop to have everything that they could possibly think of, or all the brand new products all at once, but they do expect the basics. Is that what you hear? Is that kind of what you do?
That's what we do, yes. We try and keep all the tracks so essential. We're doing the basic, you know, the paint, the glue, the track, the scenery, you know, and we dabble in, you know, a number of different figure sets from different manufacturers, Woodlands, Prizer, Walthers, Knock, you know, there's a number. So we just keep bringing in different assortments all the time.
Yep.
And just have a variety of things. So you might see it there 1 month and it could be gone for 2 or 3 months and something else replaces it, and then it sells and we bring in something different again. Just so it's not the same old all the time. I always need to have some variety because different things appeal to different people.
And then what modelers expect, if they can get the basics when they come in the store, if they need things, they really want the hobby shop to help them with the ordering of it.
And that's not a problem. I say we do Walthers, and for a lot of people, they're thrilled with a week turnaround to get it. You know, if they come in on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day before Saturday, that
Yep.
we tell them, you know, next Thursday or Friday it's going to be here. Well, they're thrilled because
Yep.
they found a number of other places that have tried to order for them, and they don't have that volume to order as often as we do.
That's one of the beauties of hobby shops, as far as I can tell, that'll work with modelers like that. And if they can count on that from the hobby shop, that, from what I understand, would be a major motivating factor to use the hobby shop more.
Right. And we can pull from all the different distributors and that as well, manufacturers. So we can try and consolidate it all so it's ready for them to pick up. So Walters might be out of something. Well, we'll try one of the other suppliers. We have a few in Canada, not a lot, but we have a few. And some of the others I can get it to the border fairly quick, and then it comes up on our truck. So that works out too.
The other thing that I hear a lot is that compared to 5-10 years ago, model railroaders are looking at other hobbies like they've never looked before. They're
Yeah.
looking at what the military modelers are doing. They're looking at what the RC people are doing, particularly with the linkages and the different motors that they use and this kind of thing. A lot of people are getting into animation. And it's to some people, model railroading is a different hobby. It's not so much building a complete railroad as it is maybe a diorama that has a railroad flavor, but it's a diorama. It's not an operating railroad. How does your hobby shop fit into that I guess change in focus of what a model railroader is looking for when they come in the door?
Well, we try and accommodate them. You know, they can give us ideas of what they're looking for. And I have other contacts with other hobby shops as well that I can pull in if they want something in the RC car field or anything pretty well. Because we've got the distributors that aren't just exclusive trains, they're doing all the hobbies. So we can pull from anybody for some of the ideas. And that's what they are doing, because they are using different ideas from all sorts of different hobbies, you know, car making or military or whatever it is. You know, I mean, we carry some of the streaking pencils that came out that look like rust, and I think it was designed for the military, but it's been great for model railroad cars and everything. So it's
And
really
I think that's what the model railroaders are starting to find out. I mean, they're going to places and they're seeing these different products, and for the first time they're saying, well, I could use that.
yeah. That's why I look around at all the different distributors and see what other items we can bring in. And even if we just bring in samples of things, so we try, you know, a few of this, a few of that, just to see what response we get in our area. And if it's a go, then we'll bring in more depth of it. You know, as long as we get good feedback, we're game to try it.
What about the small manufacturer? There's so many of them out there, and they're struggling. They're hopefully they're doing better now with the pandemic, but they're struggling for visibility, for for people to find out about them and so forth. They can't very well afford a lot of money for advertising and that kind of thing. But at the same time, they produce an awful lot of new products that are highly desired by a lot of modelers. How does a hobby shop relate to them, or is there a way that hobby shops can get more involved with the small manufacturer?
I think, it's up to the small manufacturer to go along with it, but I think if they tried working with the store and saying, well, hey, you try these 50 different items, and if some of them don't sell, then we'll take them back and we'll swap them for some other items that do. Or they could try, so many items on consignment and say, try this for 2 or 3 months, see what sells. We'll refill it at the end and see if it's a go for you. So it might just be enough to sort of jog people that, hey, they've got some new items in. Never heard of this guy before, but let's try them. Because we've tried different people in just sort of cottage industries that, especially now with the 3D printing and that people are coming out with things, and they don't have a lot of things in their lineup, but they're starting. So I'll bring in a sample of everything and then see how that goes. And whenever they got something new, we want to try it.
I think that's wonderful. I really do. I commend you for doing that. You're the first hobby shop that's really talked about doing that kind of thing that I've had on the show. I really appreciate you doing that kind of thing for the small manufacturers.
Yeah, well, we're glad to help, and we're all in it together. It's like a small family in a way, because everything's connected and everybody seems to know somebody that knows somebody else. So yeah, I think it works out well.
I think you're right. What are your future plans for your business, Richard? Where are you taking it?
Well, hoping to keep on sort of chugging along, and I'm not ready to retire yet. I enjoy it. I don't feel it's like a job, although some days it's still stressful with all the amount of paper. But it's fun to go in every day, because you never know what you're going to come across. And everybody's building different layouts, or they're collecting something. There's different aspects of the hobby. So it's always interesting to see who's coming in the door, and you just never know. There's everybody from, all the celebrities and that, to just people that are struggling. Some are on social assistance and they still need something to do. So for $20 or $30, you can buy quite a bit of scenery material for the weekend, and you're busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always something to do. So yeah, I enjoy. So I think I'll be there till I can't get in there anymore. So.
How about the electronics part of your business for the model railroader? Where are you seeing that going?
That seems to be increasing. I have a harder time to keeping up with it. Well, thankfully, that's why I've got some of my guys that'll be able to deal with that a little more. I came from a mechanical background, so the electronics are a little hard to grasp sometimes, just all the digital in the chips and everything else. But I'm getting the hang of it, but it seems to be growing. I've noticed it expanding. It seems to be focused in some areas, because you don't need to carry a wide range of things now, because it's readily accessible, usually, except for the computer chips right now. But otherwise, you can bring in an assortment of some of the different chips that do a variety of different locos, or bring in the blanks and load them up yourself. And it's growing, because people want to have a little more animation to their layouts. We have a club upstairs, and they've animated quite a bit. They've gone from the sort of satellite controlled vehicles that you can have running around with no tracks or visible tracks. And they just do their own loops and different sequences. One has a little guard area that it has a truck pull up to the gate, and the gate opens, and the guy starts the car back up, and he drives through the gate, goes down to the end, does his check, comes back, and the gate opens up again. So it's quite fascinating to see all the animation. It looks more realistic all the time.
Yep. Well, that's fascinating. Well, let me open this up. Anybody else have any questions for Richard?
Hi, Richard. Greg Cassidy. It's not a question, but I thought NAFTA and then its replacement was supposed to help with commerce between countries, and it seems like it's all gone away. Is that what's happened?
Well, we don't have any duties and things right now. So that part of it, because we used to pay a fair duty on some of it. Some of it was 11 to 14%.
Okay.
So there's none of that. So reduced scale model trains is duty free. So that part we're okay, which that's been a big help. Because to have the dollar exchange and then have to tag on another 11 to 14% or whatever it was making it a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, but it's got to be hard to absorb the transportation costs the way you do.
Yeah, well, you've got to have enough of the right product to spread it across. Like we just had the big delivery of the Athearn SD70s. So that was a real big chunk. So at least that helps spread the freight across a lot of product. But it is tough.
Well, I hope it gets better somehow.
Me too. We really need it. Yeah, it's been a challenge. That's for sure. Yeah. No.
Anyone else have a question? Well, Richard, I really do appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed hearing about you. I wish you the very best. Is there anything you'd like to close with?
I'd just like to say thanks, Jim, for having me, and appreciate the years to everybody listening, and hope we all have a great model railroading season.
Fantastic. Richard, thanks so very much again. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it too. All right.
Well, now I'd like to go back to Speed Muller, if Speed has joined us yet. Speed?
I'm here. Good evening.
Okay. Great.
Ready to go?
I will turn it over to you, sir.
So the next presentation is a little bit more technical. So this is typically where I give the presentation at 2 p.m. on a train convention and everybody falls asleep. So if you take a short nap, I can't see you, so don't worry about it. What I want to tell you about today is Mqtt trains, inexpensive layout control with Wi-Fi, not necessarily required, but it helps because the parts are kind of small, using a new technology, not so new technology, but more get to know technology in the IoT world called Mqtt. So, oh, got to share, right? Share the screen.
Speed who?
Everybody can see that?
It is there.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we're live. So who is Speed? Well, he's the guy at the bottom of the helix on NMRAX, born and raised in Namibia, southwestern part of Africa. I live in Murphy, Texas, which is just northeast of Dallas. And I modeled the Transnamib, which is our railroad in Namibia, as the TX number. No, the TX is not Texas. The TX is trans, like RX and TX is transmit and receive. That's where we got the TX from. Only later did we move from Boston to Dallas. So it's up here in a 20-foot by 20-foot room in N scale. And you might ask, what's about the weird nickname? Well, if your parents called you Gert and you moved to America and they call you Gert, and then you figure out it's the short for Gertrude, then you have a problem. So if you cannot read fast as a modeler, I can type faster than most modelers, and that's why I'm called Speed. Thank you to JMRI for getting me that nickname. Okay, so what you're going to see today, Mqtt trains, what it is, why and how, some inexpensive components that we use, a quick overview of Mqtt itself, and how do you use Mqtt trains with JMRI, And then there's some people that don't like to MRI. So how do you use it without? Okay, I also have to give some credit to my 3 Mqtts. Brad Anderson in secret behind the scenes doing most of the testing. But the 2 big developers with me has been Joe Davidson and David McMorran, the one in Austin covering all of Texas, and David McMorran is covering all of Down Under. So what is MQ Trains? It's started as firmware, where we would just write code for these ESP8266 microprocessors. Now, a little bit of an introduction. You might think, is this an Arduino? No, it's not. It's a different company, different chip, but they have a Wi-Fi part to it. Oh, ESP32 cameras. Yes, it's similar to that, but it's the baby brother of those. The ESP32s came a little later, and since the tools and software is not all completely there yet, we claimed 3 years ago, this will work perfectly on the ESP01s and ESP01S devices because they have 8 pins that are in fixed locations, so you can plug them in any board we make. If you pick another ESP, now you have to worry about where the pins are on the outside of the board, and you have to make sure they connect to what you want them to connect to. So lately, we're also providing the hardware designs that will show you how to interconnect these things with the hardware that's already available on Amazon and AliExpress and eBay, and wherever you go with Google will take you to a very inexpensive board that could drive 16 servos. Naming servos, these things can do solenoid turnouts, stall motors, control outputs like lights. You can sense sensors, sense push buttons, and the best part is it's all free. Now, it's not completely open source yet because we have to clean up some code before we show it to you, but you can download the binary file, you can program it, and if you follow the instructions on how to hook it up, then you might just have something that controls your layout without wires. So there's an example. That little board on the far right where the power supply comes in from the top is a mere $2. And where the colorful connectors are, that's where you plug in up to 16 servos. Now, 16 servos, yeah, that's like on my layout includes a windsock. It can do a little crane to push something up, but mostly we would like to move our turnouts so that we can say, train, you can go to the diverging route or you go straight. So imagine 16 servos plugging in there. And then on the far left-hand side, there is the ESP01 without the S little board. That's a $1 microcontroller with a Wi-Fi interface for you to play with. Now, if you have a breadboard, you want to wire these things up yourself, you do that. Or if you would like to order some PC boards off some internet company where you can download or upload the Gerber files to, then you can also solder your own little board in the middle there for a mere 37 cents plus maybe $4 more with more components. Okay, so why do we do this? Well, there are many inexpensive things out there to control your layouts. It's fairly easy to pick which ones. It's a little harder to know how to hook them up together. And when you get to the point where you need to write code to make it work reliably, then most people find another way. And then the dollars goes up and you have to pay that. So for us, the main objective here is to make this technology available to everybody. And all we need to do is show you how to hook it up together. So less wires, less time, less cost. Oh, I also have a 3-foot rule that when you are at a problem on your layout, then if you stick your left hand out or you stick your right hand out, you should be able to solve it within arm's reach. And that's my famous 3-foot rule. So no long wires to walk around the peninsula or duck under. So here's the inexpensive parts that I'm talking about. You can see a ESP01S, the newer one is $1. The PCA 9685, I saw some for $2 last night when I did the research for someone's little project. The buck converter that's shown there is 50 cents, and a 9G servo motor you can get from almost anywhere for $1.20. So if you buy 16 servos and you ignore the cost of the wires in between these things, for $23.70, you can control 16 servos or 16 turnouts. Isn't that the price of a tortoise machine? Well, nothing bad about tortoise machines, but 1 versus 16. And let me tell you one more secret. Once you have this all up and running, your phone can control it. your tablet can control it. My dispatcher in Scotland can control these 16 servos. When you buy that Taurus machine, how are you controlling it? You haven't bought the $3 double pull, double throw rocker switch yet, right? You haven't connected it to JMRI yet, where these things includes all of that. Okay, so for the IO side, that little MCP 23017 is shown upside down there. The reason is so we could read the labels. And it shows you a button on the left and an LED on the right. So those are the IO kind of things that we can control, as well as reading block detectors from occupancy sensors on your railroad. So what do you need? Wi-Fi for these ESPs. If you were to put this code, the code on a Raspberry Pi or some other kind of computer with inputs and output pins, especially an I2C interface, then you could go with wired Ethernet as well. So your JMRI computer does not have to be Wi-Fi connected to the router. It could be connected by a cable. We tested 22 nodes, is what we call them, these little boards, on that very old and famous WRT54G router, as well as the DIR 655, that's also more than 10 years old, and the Linksys N600, which costs a mere $30 today. And I know all of you are getting these new mesh network things. They just run even better. I have about 42 nodes up and running here on the layout. There's one in action, the signals right here, and the turnout control right behind me. And there's 30 more planned for the layout to get it finally up and running. Okay, how do you set this up? You need some computing device because there's a little piece of software that we need to run that's called the MQTT server. So you can think of it as your mail server or the innermost thing that has to remember everything, because we publish messages to it and we subscribe to get messages from it. So that would need to be installed on either a Windows, a Linux, a Mac, even a Raspberry Pi computing device, and you need to connect that to the Wi-Fi router so that all these other devices can connect to it. So simple, install Mosquito or any other MQTT server or broker. Used to be called brokers, now it's called servers. On your Linux, Mac, and Pi, you do a simple type in sudo apt-get install Mosquito. On a Windows computer, you download it from mosquito.org. And you, unfortunately, in Windows also have to configure your firewall to let messages come in and out, because security is a concern there. And then you need to find out what is your computer's IP address, because these little devices needs to publish messages to it, and it uses the Internet of Things, and it needs to know the Internet protocol address. So either on a Pi, you type in ifconfig, will tell you the numbers, and on Windows, you do ipconfig, and it will give you the numbers. And these are typically things like 192.168.something.something, or what I always tell people, if you buy a new router, configure it to go 10.10.10.something, because 10.10.10 is a lot easier to remember than 192.168.177 and then some number that it's going to give you a device. So here are the little nodes you can see on a breadboard. David built the 16-channel servo controller. It's plugged in, pointing down, so it's not shown as pretty as it should, but you can see where the servers go into. So how do you set this up? You connect all these things together. The LCD there is optional. That's just if you don't have another way of finding your device itself's IP address, then the LCD would point that to you. But you can then move the LCD to the next device and the next device as you set them up, and eventually you don't need the LCD anymore. And you connect, when you power this setup on, you use your phone to connect to it, or your tablet or your laptop or your wireless device, and then you go to the 2.2.2.1 website and you select the quick start button at the top there. Once you get the screen for the quick start, you have to pick a unique number for the board, because they all have to have their own identities, so that you can say board number 3, please throw a turnout, or board number 5, please throw a turnout, as they are in different places. And that IP address that I told you to get, that was the 10.10.10.10, that in my case for the MQTT server. So that original computer that you installed Mosquito on, you need to put its address in there. The default port is 1883. The base topic, you would put your own layout name there. In my case, it's TX Numup / mast is a good one because this board is for the mast or turnout or sensor or IO. And you need to remember what you type in there, because if you use JMRI or another way to control this with, you would need to supply that topic name there as well. I always tell people, imagine it's an email address. You need to know someone's email address if you want to send them an email, right? So the topic is where the messages will go to. And then your own Wi-Fi SSID name and the password. And we are quite security conscious. So whatever you type in there, you will never see again. So make sure you remember what it is. Okay, what is MQTT? You might hear about this. It's a technology that was developed quite a number of years ago when they built all these pipelines and had to monitor them. So in order to send small pieces of data with not a lot of bandwidth and not a lot of data at a time to some satellites so someone could monitor an oil pipeline or a gas pipeline. That's when it was invented way back when. And it only became popular just the other day when we started saying, Alexa, please turn on the light. Well, it's not an Alexa technology, but the light is connected to something that it will tell it with a message saying, hey, turn yourself on, or is the garage door open? So how those devices interact with each other and the computing devices, more than half of them uses MQTT. So very lightweight protocol. You know things like HTTP, FTP, and SMTP is for emails. Well, now we have MQTT. So just another 4-letter acronym that's not important to anybody except for the people writing the code inside here. So it's a messaging protocol. Like I said, you might have heard of IoT. It's using a broker. They call that now a server, and things connect to it, and it's subscribed to these topics. And when someone publishes to a topic, then those who are subscribed gets the messages. So you can imagine when you push a button, then it publishes a message to a topic, and whoever is listening to that button will then get it and say, hey, because you pressed that button, I need to move this turnout or toggle the state of this gates or rolling doors that roll up and down, that kind of thing. So, but in most modelers' lives, the first thing to do is to move turnouts. So we send thrown and close messages to make turnouts move. The cool thing is that with a single configuration line in your MQTT or your Mosquito broker, you can bridge this to another Mosquito instance, and that gives people access to control your layout or parts of your layout, whichever parts you give control to. And that's how I use my panels to give Gordy in Scotland access to throw turnouts here on the main line as he's helping trains across the railroad. Now, JMRI also have MQTT, and the very next release will also have signal mast. Sensors and turnouts already exist in it. So you could have someone in another part of the world connect with his JMRI and his own view of it. You give him the files and it looks different for him than it looks for you. And whatever he clicks on publishes, and whatever messages he subscribed to will show up on his side and show an occupancy detector go active or inactive. Now, the messages travel using TCP/IP, and that's why we're using Wi-Fi. But if you had wired connected devices, like I know of a guy that has more than 10 Raspberry Pis, then you can use the same protocol, and all his Raspberry Pis are plugged in with Ethernet cables. So, okay, so the messages have a payload, and that's the email part. You can even send images with this, but we like to keep it small and short because the devices are not very power hungry. So in order to keep that lightweight, we say thrown or closed, approach, semicolon lit, semicolon unheld, or active or inactive. And then the topics are the things where it gets published to. So a typical topic would be TX number, turnout, and then the board number 0201. And then 01 would be that first slot on the PCA board where you plug the turnout into. this servo motor into. And in JMRI, it would be called MT0201/01. In the second case here, I did not verify how the next JMRI is going to show you the system name, but it will have the typical signal mask name that shows the type of signals it is, and then in the parentheses, it would have the same topic structure as we have for turnouts and sensors. And lights and sensors and IO things, similar idea. Okay, so MQ trains with JMRI. There's 2 awesome NMRX clinics that you can go look up on September 26th and April 24th. David McMorran gave those clinics. And on the txnummup.com website, there is a list of all 377 NMRX clinics. So you just do a search there for MQ trains. And while you're there, also search the ones for LCC or DCC, and you can get all the information down there. I will put a link in the chat here as soon as I stop talking. Okay, so you open up the preferences in JMRI, you select a new connection on the connections tab, and you put your IP address of your MQTT broker or server in there. Then the MQTT channel, that's where you change the My layout to txnummup, whatever you like. And if you decided to go with servos, I would change the turnout to servo, but the default is now turnout. And further down, you can see signal mask. I've just been using mask, so you have a way of configuring those things right here. And then once you go to the tools, tables, turnouts menu, you can add a new turnout, give it some unique username, and the hardware address would be 0201/01 as in the example before. Okay, so these messages, this is the technical part, so we'll skip over this in a quick way. JMRI would publish, close, or thrown to the MQTT server. The MQTT servo board would subscribe to that specific topic. It would get the subscribe. Because it's subscribed, it gets the message and it says thrown for turnout number 1, and then it moves turnout number 1 to the thrown state. What I didn't show earlier is once you have all these things powered up, you go and configure every servo on how far to move, and you go configure every pulsed or solenoid turnout how long to be on, and how, because you want to keep a solenoid powered the whole time. And if you do set the time to 0, then you can drive a stall motor like a tortoise machine, and it will be on all the time, whichever way the thrown or closed is set. And you configure is thrown this way or is thrown this way. That's all done in the little HTML page of the device. And then when you touch an IO button, then it publishes, and since JMRI is subscribing, JMRI will show that sensor went active. And similar thing happens with when there's more devices with inputs and outputs. They all send and receive messages as needed. The really cool thing that we have with the MQTT broker, that is if you set these messages to retain, which we do by default, then when you turn the layout on and that servo board turns on and it subscribes to the broker, it gets all the messages as it had them 20 days ago. So you don't have to run a script to say, this is the new route or this is the main route so that all the signals can do their things. No, the broker remembered where the turnouts need to go. So the turnouts immediately go to where they were last time. So no more route running or start of day problems like they call them. Okay, without JMRI, here's a view of my hump yard. What you're looking at is a tablet with a web page, and it's using JavaScript code in the background, which big word, but it's already all done. All you need to do is say which buttons go where and what are their addresses. So this one here is a little special that when you touch one of those 7 buttons there, you're selecting which track do the cars need to roll down the hump yard. So it's more than one turnout gets thrown or closed when you touch one of those buttons. So it's a little different than what you'll see in another photo where you simply touch the diagram. So here's what the dispatcher sees. So you can see that there are little orange circles by the turnouts, and they go to places, but the dispatcher doesn't know where they go. There are even more turnouts in town that he can control because we only want to give him access to the main line and the sidings so that he could get trains to go past each other. Now, the yard here on the left by the helix, he's seeing all the turnouts simply because the helix is double track going down, and therefore for him to get a train through the yard there would be only one turnout that I wouldn't show, and that would be the one where track 1 connects to track 2. So I decided to just copy the whole panel and show that to you. The ones with the gray, nobody can touch and they can't move, even though they are installed. And on my phone, I have another view. I can touch the button and run a train around the circle at the bottom of the helix. The little red lines you see there, those are occupancy detections that once that sensor goes active, the track symbol will change from white to red. So the dispatcher can also monitor where the trains are. Here on the top right, you see the panel for the town. Let me just quickly peek back. So at the very top right, you see Okahanya, and there's 2 crossovers and 2 turnouts on one on the siding, one on the main line. And if you look at the real screen for Okahanya, there's a whole bunch more turnouts that the local guy can change, which the dispatcher cannot see. The double blue line is the main line, which you also see at the bottom there, second line from the bottom. So when you touch those orange circles, then the turnouts change over. Oh, here's a nice view of it. You can see there's a train leaving Okahanya to the south, and nothing else is occupied in town. The really cool thing about this is when you, the owner, who's not operating because you got to fix all the problems. When I sit here in the helix and I'm helping the dispatcher and I hear somebody is having a trouble derailing over some points, then I bring up the panel on the computer screen here. I'm like, yep, I know what he's doing. And then you just click on the turnout, fixes the problem. He doesn't derail anymore. And he doesn't even need to know that, the angels helped him out. So one day I will put back the little buzzer so that when you do run against the points that you get the loud beep to tell you, you got a short. See how easy we got by taking all those things out, so people now just can run trains without nobody knowing what mistakes they're making. I think we need to put those back. So a few more examples, solenoids and stall motors. There's the Cato turnout at the bottom that gets a pulse out of that L9110S board, which is available on Amazon for, I think, $1.50. So with this little interface board here and Arduino Nano to do the timing, we can control 8 turnouts. And if you set the timing to 0, then that stall motor, the tortoise machine, will stay on whichever way you tell him to go. Signal masts, we believe in these things called pixels. So you have seen these addressable LEDs. You see the example I show there in the middle photo is actually 3 masts. Believe it or not, there's a clear, there's a approach, and then there's a stop. And you need to imagine those being broken apart and soldered to sticks and planted down the layout. And in the right screen, I show you that if you already have your signals installed with LEDs, then you can buy these WS2811 chips. And since it has a red, green, blue channel, you solder your LEDs to those wires. And now when we set that mast to have blue on, then you would have the third LED that you solder in. Might just be a lunar one or a red one, or actually a blue one. It doesn't have to be red, green, blue, because these pixels on the left can go what they call 16 million colors, even though some of them are just darker versions of others. But you send data 255 red, 255 green, 255 blue, and that makes the color that they show. So the ones on the right is just as inexpensive. And like I said, you solder your own 3 LEDs to it, and you string them up into a wire. And then just one of those pins of the ESP, the purple one on the right side there, is controlling the whole string. And right now we can control up to 50 masts, which includes, like the top left above me here, a Pennsylvania signal that has 7 pixels on it. Now, in this case, it's kind of a waste. The blue never turns on because it only goes yellow. So there's only green and red on at all times. How do you get started? Well, I suggest you buy yourself a ESP8266 starter kit. I think the price is $14.99. And you go over to mqtrains.com. You can read all the PDFs that's there. You buy some parts from Amazon, PCA 9685 for $2 and a few servos. You plug them in, you download the code in, you configure it, you set it up, and you're off to the races. So I hope I didn't rush too fast through this. They gave me half an hour. The only bad question is the one you did not ask. So, Jim, any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Speed?
The 3-foot rule you were talking about, is that a limit to the servo wire extensions?
It is not a limit. Are we on the air? Because I want to tell the truth here. So don't record this part. I have one servo that is controlled from 10 feet away. The bigger problem with these servos are that we use these short little extension cables. So you plug one into another, into another, into another, into another. And by the time you get to the 5th one, your servo is doing the and you're like, uh-oh, because very few of us is willing to solder 3 pins to 3 pins and run it all 10 feet. Now, what is the limitation really? Is it that you are too stingy to spend another $5 to control that servo over there, and maybe have a guy chopping a tree down right next to him, or a gate opening up and closing, or maybe a windmill changing direction? Why would you rather not avoid the 10-foot problem and do a few more things over there, where we all know that we always stuff the board up to the very last one, so 5 years later we cannot make it grow because we left nothing for expansion. So almost all my turnouts, even this one right here above me, is only 12 up to 12 turnouts plugged in. There's always 4 more where I can 4 slots more where I can put something into to do something else.
Speed, this is Jim Murphy. I have a question. You showed block detection on your main panel, which was on a display. What kind of block detection do you use? Is it simply an on-off detector, or do you go high-low on a pin?
So they are physically BD20s, which I made my own so I could have a screw hole through the board, because I hate it when you get to someone's layout and the double sticky tape is either on the PC board or the double sticky tape is on the layout. It's somehow the 3 never stay together. So,
understood.
So I made my own little boards, and because I'm a debug freak, when you turn the layout on, every block that's not occupied has a red LED that turns on. And as soon as the train goes over it, the transistor shorts and that LED dies. It pulls the line low and it tells the little board, hey, there's someone here. So,
okay. So what pulls the line low? Is it current that you're detecting?
It's current through the transformer.
And but that's on a BD20.
It's like a BD20.
Vaguely familiar, but I haven't looked that one up ever. So,
but you could use anything that makes a 0 to 5 volt high or low. The IO board itself is a digital control device. So if you go above 2 volts, it sees it as a high, and if you go below, I think 1.5 or something, then that's a low. So you can invent anything. Like the easiest thing is to do a pull-up resistor with a push button, and if you push the button, that point goes low, and the board sees something different than the high you just had.
Mm-hmm. So you could also use like an optical detector with an infrared LED pair.
Correct.
The same thing to get you 0 to 5 volt or something signal to activate it.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I see a few questions here from Edward. Why are you using Wi-Fi than using Zigbee or Z-Wave? So a Wi-Fi router is $29. A mesh network system is $120. If I had to create a Z-Wave or Zigbee controller, now now I also have to supply that when someone wants to go MQ trains. So instead of me hacking into a SmartThings device owned by Samsung and tell everybody to buy a SmartThings device or sell my own Z-Wave or Zigbee controller, Wi-Fi has the benefit that TCP/IP protocols go through it, and there's literally a computer on the other side, and these things are tiny little computers that sense data just like any other TCP/IP thing. Now, yes, there are Z-Wave things carrying TCP/IP packets. There are Zigbee things doing similar things, but instead of me being in control over the mesh or how they assemble and making sure who's where, we went for the $1 ESP01 board that gives you 8 pins that's always in the same location. Can you control locomotives? You certainly can, but I would not like to, because there's a quality of service that makes sure that your board will get the message, but it doesn't tell you when. So all of us, when we turn that throttle down to 0, we want the engine to stop. We don't want to stop it 3 seconds later. Now, what I always explain to people is when my dispatcher in Scotland clicks on a turnout, when do I expect that turnout to move? I don't know when he clicked on it, right? He certainly is not clicking on it while my engine is already on top of it. Imagine the signal head that needs to change. I just talked to him. He gave me a track warrant. I'm writing down the last part. I'm gathering all my tools and my stuff. I'm ready to go. And now I look at the signal. So I have literally about 5 seconds since he clicks on it from when I'm going to need to see the signal. Now, I know there's some of us that monitor those signals with an eagle eye, and you're going to count the seconds since he clicks and you get the signal. Well, okay, let's play smoke signals then, and you're happy that it happened within half a second, because that's a typical reaction time that I've seen when we test these things. I tell Brad in Australia, click on the turnout. I want to see how fast it moves. The turnout also takes 3 seconds to get to the other side. But when you get to locomotive control, you want those 2 engines or 3 engines or the one that's in the rear of the train need to move in unison. So I much rather stick to LCC for that. Question from YouTube. Are they going on NGINX, which I've seen once before? I'm running a small Apache server. It serves the JavaScript library called Paho, PAHO.js, as well as the Canva panel in which those elements are drawn on. So it is just a simple web server. JMRI also gives you a web server, so you could also look at any panel that JMRI has through any phone or web connected device. What are your thoughts on LCC? I was a big proponent of the Merck C-Bus system, and there's still a part of it underneath my layout here controlling the staging behind me. But when I only had 6 months left to get this whole railroad up and running, I didn't have enough time and energy to deal with the wiring that is involved in a CAN bus. Wonderful technology. I mean, if you have to control something 100 meters away, I would definitely go with LCC or CAN bus versus doing something Wi-Fi. Because as an electrical engineer, I hate batteries and I really hate wireless things. So none of my throttles are wirelessly controlled. All these things have cables to them. Because if it's not plugged in, it's not on, and I don't have to worry about the batteries, right? And batteries always die in the middle of the operating session, right when you're helping someone else, then George wants a battery. So I think LCC is a good way to go. I just wish there were 10 companies making products for it, so the price would come down a little bit. So the timing was off for me, and I went this way. So, any more questions?
Pete, I really do appreciate you being here this evening. Thank you so very much for your time and the great information that you shared. You know, we hear an awful lot about LCC, and a lot of us just don't really understand what it's all about. So I really appreciate you coming here this evening, and thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Can we get some info in the chat about?
Yeah, let me
the
Let me
products?
post, chat. Where's the chat?
Thank you,
Chat,
Speed.
chat to everybody.
Hey, Speed, while you're doing that, it's Clark, by the way.
Good evening.
Explain to them where you're sitting.
So I'm sitting at the bottom of the helix. In N scale, it's a 4x8 sheet of plywood. I think there's 5 or 7 layers in here, 5-layer plywood, and it actually held my layout up for about 2 years because I don't want to say fresh from Africa because we were already in Boston for 10 years, but Boston is different, so you can't count that. So 2 years down here, I got the layout built from the left side, top and bottom, to the point where I'm going to have to build the helix. And I could not find a 5x9 sheet because this was designed so that a computer would sit here and that you would have the dispatcher, yeah, he has to duck under, but maybe he has some energy and I need an energetic dispatcher. So the dispatcher would comfortably sit here with a little mini fridge and he would not care about the rest of the world. Because I've operated on quite a few railroads where the dispatcher would get up and come tell you which car you moved into the wrong wrong place. And we did not want any of that. So when my friend Joe said, dude, a 4x8 sheet is $8. Lowe's is a half a block that way. How about we just go get one and we cut a hole in it and then you decide if you need it bigger. So we literally took 4x8 sheets and split them at some point. So all that's happening is that they just offset, and then all these little blocks are all cut the same height. So it's perfectly nicely evenly spaced, and there's enough of them so there's no waving in the system. Of course, it's in a air conditioned room, so I don't expect a lot of warpage and things. But in N scale, the grade matters. So we go up on the outside and we come down on the inside. And the main reason for that is in Southern Africa, we do left-hand running. So isn't it more appropriate to take the long route up because that's a lesser grade and take the short route down so you don't care about the grade, right? So yeah, so I have to duck in and out of here. Sometimes the other members of the household is kind enough to hand me a plate of food. Because when we do a 24-hour NMRX thing, this chair works you. I mean, it's an adventure, but it's kind of nice that it's quiet in here. My little projects are staggered around here, so it's a fun.
Yep. Thanks.
It's a fun thing. Another question from YouTube. What JS server did you mention? It's not a JS server. It's a regular whatever you install on a Raspberry Pi, and it's using a JavaScript library to serve the web page. So everything downloads to your device, and then it runs the code. So there's nothing on the server side that's doing things. Mr. Monroe, you can give me a phone call and we can discuss that. So
Speed, thanks again. I really do appreciate it. I think you certainly shed some more light on what LCC is about and why we should get involved with it. So thank you so very much.
Be safe, everyone.
Yes, sir. Well, now I'd like to turn to Mr. Clark Kooning, MMR, for the Banter model build along. Clark, welcome.
Oh, howdy. Okay, after that, this is like slow paced. And I wanted to say a couple shout outs. One to Speed. I've known Speed for quite a while, so thanks for coming on. And two, there's a couple other guys on who I think may have joined through me putting up some clinics on Facebook. I see some names that I think were involved in some of the clinics. So if that's you, go to the chat and just say hello. That would be great. Also, a friend of mine from California, who is actually a Canadian. Peter, how are you? Good to see you on the chat. And we'll go to the clinic. If I can get to it. All right, so this is part 5 already. Can't believe it's part 5 of the Banta warehouse. Hopefully we're going to wrap this up completely next week and we'll go from there. Hopefully these slides are in order. For some reason, PowerPoint seems to want to play Tetris with some of these slides. So anyway, the Banta models that we've been working on is the warehouse. So you can, this one is being done in HO, but you can get it in HO, SO, G, and F. And as I mentioned previously on other clinics, but for those maybe just turning in for the first time, this is a little different laser kit. It's actually got a base of either plywood or MDF. And then you overlay individual boards over the base to create the board-on-board look. Okay, so when we last left our modeler, we were talking about doors. Now, I showed this picture, and Phil at home jumped up and down and says, "Oh, look at, you got splits in these boards. How would it attach to the frame?" Okay. So I took that heart, but anyway, it actually will fit on the inside. Now, if you don't place it properly, you're going to get this gap. Now, we haven't put the floor in for the deck yet, so we got to take that consideration. So just keep the doors off to the side for the moment. As I said, Phil called me out on the doors, so I changed it and made them all one piece instead of split pieces, so that I would make it look like more prototype. Okay, Phil, I did that. Now, per the instructions, it was sort of vertical planking out, and I wanted to change that. I went for more of a horizontal planking. Now, that did create some other issues, such as in the doorways. So what I had to do was cut and fit pieces to go into the doorway. Now, I'm not going to really have a large opening in the door, so I didn't need to go that far in, and we'll have some boxes and barrels in the front, so it will hide sort of the remaining of the floor. But you do have to go in to all the openings with the decking. And then when you do glue it in, you'll see it fits nice and snug and properly because you've got the decking in. Now, again, you don't want to hide or come over this slot up here, because that's where that overhead porch for the deck is going to still fit. So we have to be careful of that. I carried on and put in some trim that covers up that gap. Remember, we have 2 pieces here, so I just put in the trim as per the instructions. I made sure I used my square to make sure it was nice and level, and then I just cut them off. Now, I tested them, make sure that the roof would still fit and everything, and sanded where it was appropriate. Okay. So this week it takes a little more planning again, because we're going to be handing that model, and I talked about this last week. So I'm trying to keep the delicate stuff towards the end. So we should do is talk about windows and doors. Again, now these are laser board. They're not wood. It's almost like a cardboard, but not. And I forget the actual term. Fran or one of the guys actually, or I don't know, Bill's on, well, actually could probably describe it at the end of the clinic, but it's kind of neat stuff. And the nice thing about it is when you're using laser board compared to wood has a grain, and you see the grain sometimes running in the opposite direction or where it really should on a window or door. So with this, there's no grain. Now, I like to do everything in sort of the carrier sheet so I don't lose the part, and because they are fairly small, and it's also much easier to deal with. So I stain them just like we did before with some of that driftwood stain from Hunterline, and then I painted a little bit of the green on to fit in with the whole coloring of the structure that I've been following. So again, you have a frame, you have the door sort of decorative piece, and then you have the main door. Now, you want to make sure that when you go to put this decorative piece onto the door backing, you have this lined up. It's very easy to flip that over, and that cross piece would actually be up here, but you gotta need to be in the section where it's supposed to go. So a little tip there, okay? So with the two pieces glued in, I test fitted it. And then once I was happy with the fit, I glued it in and then added the door frame on top of it. Now with the windows, here's the basic assembly that Bill's got shown in his instructions, which are pretty straightforward. You have a lower sash, an upper sash, you have the frame, and then of course the sill. And you've got window glazing, which he does give you, and it's laser cut. So here again are the pieces. You've got the upper sash, the lower sash, the frame, and then the sill. And you're going to assemble them. Now, again, I painted them up in the carrier. Now, these have a sticky back to them. You actually peel the back paper off, and you can attach these on without any glue. And you just stick them on. Here's one that I've already peeled off. And then I put them together, and then the same thing, I've cut out the windows here, and oops, I've sort of missed this one. So we're going to put the sash onto the lower sash onto the upper sash, and I do it upside down because of course this is sticky. You have to watch, see how it's a little thicker here and a little thinner here. You want that thin piece to go up there so that it's hidden, and you're going to see what happens when you don't a little bit later. Now, as I said, you want to make sure these are lined up. As soon as you touch it, it is on. Now, see how I'm not lined up on this? And that can be a problem because it's almost impossible to get these apart once they really touch. It's sort of like contact. So that's off a bit. Here's the other problem. If you don't get them up high enough, see how it's showing here? When you go to put this glass in, it won't actually fit properly. So you have to make sure when you put these windows together, they're exact. All right. So again, here I've got the window together. We're putting the dry fit on. And if you like it, you can glue it in and put the frame around it. Now, I would suggest using the canopy glue, especially around the windows, because you've got that clear glass in it. And if you do get a little mucky or a little bit on your hands, this stuff will dry clear and it won't muck up your window. Here's what happens when you use your yellow glue. See how I smeared it here? I'm not afraid to show you my mistakes because that's how everybody learns. And the problem, of course, with doing a clinic is you're trying to rush these things to get them pictures done, and especially when you start Wednesday morning to get it done for tonight. So what's next? Well, we did the steps for the instructions. Again, we stained them with hunter line driftwood, just like our other parts. And basically now we're coming along. So here's the roof, just temporary on. And you can see we've got all the windows and doors in. We've got the porch on. And I've planked the porch decking. I haven't trimmed it out yet. There's still trim that needs to all the way go around here. And now we start putting on the posts for the stairwell on the model. So again, the kits are supplied you with this material as per the instructions. Make sure you use a square. You get them nice and square so that they're not on an angle, and glue them in. And then you're going to put your railings in, and then I glued the steps on. So now here it's pretty well complete. Next thing is I put around the trim for the deck. You can see how nicely that finishes off. And then I also put in that decking that we had already made in that little fixture, that cardboard fixture, and we put the decking in. So we're getting pretty cool. So the next thing is going to be our roofing project for this kit. And I'm kind of debating whether I want to go steel roof, or I'm going to go with the roofing material that's supplied in the kit, or something totally different. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. So stay tuned for next week's clinic in answers to these modeling questions and much more next week. Same Zoom channel, same Zoom time. That's it. Any
Anybody
questions?
have any questions for Clark?
Well, there is a question from YouTube. Apparently somebody was looking at your background. He said Humanity Junction wants to know what kind of fish you have and what are their names.
Oh, well, they are saltwater fish, and I have 2 different tanks, and there's in one tank it's hoppy and then some clownfish. So they really don't have names, they're fish. Because even when you call them, they don't come very often. So anyway, we'll go from there. Resin impregnated craft paper. Okay. Yeah, Daryl would know. He's a manufacturer. All right. And
Clark, if you get your windows stuck together there, you were saying that once they touched, that glue is kind of instantaneous. Have you found anything that could help you kind of loosen that joint if you need to make an adjustment on those windows or the doors?
You can cut them. I cut them apart and actually fix that one. But that sticky back, it's how can I say it? It's a stable material for what it's meant for, but it's not really a material that you can correct very easily. It kind of bends and it looks like hell later. So you have to be very careful with it in the first place. I have taken an X-Acto knife and cut them apart. The biggest trick is when you set them down, just let them sort of the own gravity touch down on them. Don't apply any pressure. You can move them a little bit. It's not as hard but as soon as you put any kind of pressure together on those, it's, when you give it a little squeeze, they're on and you're just going to bend the window. You're not going to get it undone.
I would work on them horizontally, edge on a flat build plate. So you only have one adjustment.
Right.
You don't have to do an X and a Y. You just have to do an X.
Yeah, I do that usually, Fran. I have like a block and I push them up to that edge so I know at least one edge. But trying to do a little rush job to get it done for tonight. That's all well, anyway, that was my own fault. But yeah, you just have to. But that's good. I want people to see that even the so-called experts, that and $1 will get me not even a cup of coffee. You can make errors and you can fix them. It just takes a little bit of time. So the biggest thing to learn out of that is don't rush it.
Yeah, I really appreciate seeing the errors because I'd be making them tomorrow.
Well, hopefully not now.
Yeah.
But that's part of this whole process. I mean, like when you talked about your clinics and stuff, I think that's one of the things that that little heads up so that people are trying it maybe for the first time will go, ooh, I remember what he said. Don't, push them down. So, and I think that's what this whole thing about model railroading, sharing, and this program is all about. So it's all good. Any other questions?
Yeah, Clark, this is Jeff. I just wanted to add your suggestion of priming this kit is very good. I did a little experimenting on just painting straight onto the wood and was very disappointed. Went back and primed it and got a much better result.
Yeah, it how can I say it? That little bit of stain gives you a little bit of tooth, but it also prevents that next color from seeping in as far.
Yep.
Does that make any sense to you?
Exactly. That was exactly the issue with the paint. Whatever this wood is, it really likes to soak up the paint and giving a light coat of just, hobby primer. I really like Tamiya primer because it's so light. Made a huge difference. Good tip.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, sir.
What kind of primer did you use?
I'm using Tamiya spray primer. I also do model airplanes, model cars, and discovered it from that. And I like it because it's very fine pigment and it sprays on very light and very evenly. I do use Krylon and those primers for some things, but on a fine model, I find that the Tamiya primer is excellent, no drips, no runs, very fine, very smooth coat, and dries very quickly.
Sounds like a baseball
Right.
team I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been using this gray automotive primer that one of the guys on here suggested, and it's been great. I've bought all kinds of it. So Pat Rivard is probably laughing, but yeah, so I like it. And I learned that years ago from the guys at Barn Mills. They always say to spray their models with this light gray, and they were using the cheapest paint from Walmart. But now they've, the brands change and they take over their own paints, or it's different paint now, and it's got a lot more pigment in it, and therefore it kind of isn't the same. Pat's got the El Cheapo French version of it up. So
I've had
right.
very, very good luck doing basswood on cars and like the Ambroid cars and little bells. And that's just the clear flat finish.
Yes.
Because it's got very, very fine. I know it's got particles in it that give it the matte finish, but they're very, very finely ground pigment. Is to be translucent, but they really form more of a sealer than an actual paint. And I've had very good luck with that, even going over them with Hunter line stains afterwards, because it gives you a very uniform surface to work on. Have good luck with that flat finish. Krylon, or there's some cheaper versions too.
Yeah, but Jim, that's exactly, I use that quite a bit, that matte finish. Matter of fact, when we do the hands-on clinics for some of the laser kits, I tell them to spray, we spray that as a sealer, just as you said, and it works really well. And I do the same thing as, if you remember when we did the downtown deco kit, I said to use that clear instead of the paint as a sealer, just for that same reason. So yeah.
It works very well.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, I sent you that information on those BD20s in the chat. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, okay. I got to pull up the chat. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Yeah, Clark, have you tried hairspray on some of that stuff to seal walled seals?
No, I have not used hairspray because there's just too much water in it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Too much water in it.
Mm-hmm. Because I noticed I was working on a model the other day, and it was to, the chalk stuff for weathering. I said, "Oh my goodness, seal this." Oh, I know, hairspray.
Now, plastic you can get away with. I don't know if I would do it on wood.
Yeah, it was wood.
Yeah.
It seemed to hold it kept it so when you picked it up and touched it, the stuff didn't come off in your fingers anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anything that would give you some tooth. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Clark.
No problem. And by the way, just for a little weather report, it was a beautiful -30 here the other night.
Sounds like you're kind of fishing weather, Clark.
Well, you know what? I caught 3 blocks of ice today. Go ahead, Jim. It's all yours.
Thanks so much, Clark. That was a good one. All right. Well, I think that's basically our show tonight, but I've got some announcements that I'd like to make here, so I hope you'll stay with me a little longer. The first one is about Greg Cassidy. Greg has been on our show for a long time. He's done some of the build-alongs and so forth in the past. He's entered a contest in a group called the Village Collectors. And I think Greg can put up the link in the chat of how you get there. He's his number in the contest is number 18, and he's in the lead right now, winning the contest. But it closes in 3 days, and so any of his friends that might want to help out on this, if you can log on to that website and vote for number 18, it won't take you but a second or two. I'm sure Greg would appreciate it. So best of luck, Greg. I hope you win it. on January the 22nd, Saturday, January the 22nd, which is coming up here in a few days. We're starting another show called New Tracks Workshop with Chris Blackmart. And Christopher, if you could run the video for that show.
We shall.
Welcome to New Tracks Workshop. My name is Jim Kello. I'm the creator and host for New Tracks, where mentors help modelers build. Thanks so much for coming. I hope you come back often and tell your friends about our show. These Saturday workshops are a new project for New Tracks. They've resulted from comments I've received from modelers about scratch building and Chris Blackmar's interest in producing and leading this effort. The segments are structured like the popular build-along segments on our Wednesday evening shows, except these Saturday shows are designed to show modelers how to scratch build a model. I personally believe that scratch building is one of the most creative parts of model railroading, and I think you'll agree if you try it. Here is your opportunity to work with some skilled modelers to learn how to do it. You will learn the steps, the skills, the techniques involved in scratch building a model in any scale you want. There are no kits to buy, only the needed scratch building supplies. The plans that will be used for the model, you can download on your computer at no cost. The show's moderator, Chris Blackmart, is a very talented and artistic modeler, and he and his guest will guide you through the complete scratch building process, one small step at a time. After all, that's what mentoring is all about. If you're a beginner, I hope you'll join in and experience the thrill of completing a scratch-built model and being able to stand back and say, I built that. If you're a more experienced or advanced modeler, I hope you'll join in and offer your advice and knowledge to less skilled modelers, and even get some fresh ideas yourself. The live shows will, of course, be recorded on our YouTube channel, so you can refer to the information later if you need to. In addition, I hope you'll visit our website, newtracksmodeling.com, and subscribe. You'll need to confirm the email that you received to verify your address. And after that, you'll receive all of the notice of our future shows, as well as the login links to attend. If you would prefer to watch the series on YouTube, you can do that by going to our channel, New Tracks Modeling, ring the bell, and click all. Therefore, you'll get all of the notice for the start of all of our future shows on the channel. If you can spare a little time, I hope you'll consider joining our management team to help us plan and produce any of our future shows. Please contact me at jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com and let's discuss your interest. So welcome to the New Tracks Workshop. I look forward to seeing your finished models and, of course, hearing any suggestions for future shows you may have. Now, here is Chris Blackmart to start your scratch building journey. And now here is Chris Blackmart. Chris, would you like to comment?
Sure, Jim, thank you. Again, I wanted to invite everybody to come join us on this scratch building adventure. I know that there's a lot of you guys out here that are regular participants of this show that are more advanced scratch builders, and I'd love to have you join along and contribute. Just because I may be working in a wood, you may want to work in a cardboard, or if I'm doing wood siding, you may want to use a plaster siding or a plaster base, and then bring in your techniques and things for coloring and showing us how we can create a different looking model using the same plan set, if you will. Again, I'm not going to just be sitting there watching paint dry. We're going to discuss in details some of the properties of paints, some of the properties of, say, the soft pastels and why you would use one brand over a different brand to obtain a given effect that you may be trying to obtain. And we're going to try to look at scale specific techniques, such as cutting out windows or something like that, where one technique might work well in a O scale, but it would not work so well in N scale. So we'll try to come up with different alternatives, as well as suggest different alternatives for the various materials that we'll be using for the various parts of the projects. So again, please join me. We will be working to go all the way from the very beginning and acting as if you had never really held a X-Acto knife in your hand before, and moving it forward and building on that for the various different projects of this series. And Jim, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for wanting to do this. I really do appreciate it. I think it's going to be a wonderful workshop, and I think a lot of people are going to be interested in it. So thank you again for all of your help in this. Now I'd like to talk about some of our upcoming build-alongs. I'm not going to go into detail on any of them. All of the details, the pricing, the ordering instructions, all of that information is on our website. And our website is newtraxmodeling.com. So you can get all of the details there. But in February, on February the 9th, Paul Reeves, who owns Kershaw Models, is teaming up with Martin Breck-Built MMR. Martin's going to be building one of his O-scale kits. March the 23rd, Bruce Nicholson, the owner of Seaport Model Works, is going to build one of his kits. It's a waterline kit of a 53-foot coastal steam passenger ferry. And from what he tells me, this is a fairly easy kit to build, but something that I think that you'll enjoy and be a little bit different than we've ever done on the show before. March the 30th, Rick and Marie Hunter are back. They're going to build a 50-foot queen post covered bridge. It'll be available in all 4 of the scales. Starting April the 6th, David Vaughn, the owner of Wit and Wisdom Models, is going to start a build-along of his John Armstrong inspired diner kit. And I think that'll be something unusual that a lot of modelers are going to be interested in. May the 25th, Chris Course, the owner of Conowingo Models, will be building one of his new kits that's named after me. The kit is the Kello Trolley Station. Naturally, I hope a lot of you want to build that. Starting June the 1st, 2022, Bill Banna, owner of Banna Model Works, will start a build-along himself of one of his Banner OM30 caboose kits. This is the first OM30 build-along that we've done on the show. July the 13th, a build-along with Paul Egret, who is the designer, and John Thomas Reynolds is going to build a card model that Paul designed. This is going to be free to download in all of the different scales, and a scale chart will be on our website so that you can download it in the scale of your choice. This was a very successful build-along that we had last time. And I hope that a lot of you will be interested in building this card model. We've got more to come the rest of this year, but that'll take you through at least the first 7 months of the coming year. I hope you'll want to participate in all of these build-alongs. They're really a great learning experience, as you could tell from the one that Clark did tonight. You'll get a lot of tips. It's one thing, you may have built a lot of kits in the past and so forth, but to have somebody with really exceptional skills, and that's the kind of people that we try to have on the show, give you tips and ideas of improving your modeling as they build these kits, is like having a mentor sit there and help you along the way. You get a great price deal provided by the manufacturer. All of them are giving discounts, and the discounts ranging from 20–25%. So it's a great opportunity for you to learn some modeling and get a chance to build some kits that you may not have ever thought about or known about before. Next, I'd like to talk about something that's really special that we've got coming up. July the 13th, Heath Hurwitz is going to show us his switching puzzle on his 48-inch by 10-inch switching railroad that he calls the Human City Junction. It's a variation of John Allen's Time Saver, and it can be operated remotely. He's going to be on our show, and he's going to show you the layout. And he's going to show you and tell you how you can sit at home and operate his switching layout. There are other layouts out there, I understand, that allow remote operation, but they basically allow you to run the trains. This one is 100% switching. It's something that anybody can do. And frankly, there's no excuse for not being a model railroader anymore. If you can be a remote model railroader and use somebody else's model railroad from your easy chair. Then starting in August the 10th, every 2 weeks, he'll come up with a different puzzle for his layout. And we'll offer the opportunity to modelers on the show to do his switching puzzle for that time and see who gets the winning for doing it in the quickest amount of time. So we hope you enjoy those segments. There's something different for the show, but I think that it may be something in the future that a lot of modelers are going to gravitate toward because of, frankly, a lot of us just don't have the space that we'd like to have and don't want to spend the time to build a model railroad. If we can do something remote like this, then this may encourage some model railroaders to become operators. The next My Build is January the 19th. The My Builds are really important to me because they're an opportunity to share your models with all of us. And frankly, I really think that's important. I think everybody that does it learns something and has some fun with it. So I encourage you to participate in it. Starting in January the 19th, we have a sponsor for these. The Model Railroad Resource LLC publishes the two magazines that carry the New Tracks articles, O-Scale Resource and S-Scale Resource. Both of them are online publications that are free to read and to download. All you have to do is Google either one of the magazines and sign up for them, and you'll get them free. The articles in New Tracks that I write cover all the different scales, not just O and S. And they're about modelers, and they're about mentoring. They're about the things that we try to cover on our show. Many of the people that have been on our show have also been in my articles. So I don't write just about O-Scale and S-Scale, but I do write about modeling and mentoring. So I encourage you to look at those magazines if you're not familiar with them, even if you're not an O-Scaler or an S-Scaler. And even if you don't read any of the articles except the New Tracks. But I appreciate Dan Marie and Amy Darty for wanting to sponsor the My Bill portion of our show. They have agreed that anybody that participates in the My Bill on our show, that those people will also have their model, their name, and a description of their model included in the following issue of their magazine, whether it's the S-Scale that comes out next or the O-Scale that comes out next. Regardless of the scale that you show, it will be included in one of those magazines. So you get the visibility of showing your model and talking about it on live on the show if you want, but you'll also have it written up and published in one of their magazines. Their magazines, like I say, are online and have a much broader audience, I'm sorry to say, than our Zoom show, but we slowly but surely are trying to catch up. So with that said, that's it for this show. Thanks so much for coming. I really do appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Most importantly, I hope you learned something from the show. That's what it's all about. Please subscribe to our website, newtracksmodeling.com. You get notices of all of our future shows. You can find out the information about all of the projects that we have pending and the information that we're trying to make sure that everybody has access to. If you watch on YouTube, if you'll subscribe to our New Tracks channel on YouTube, it's New Tracks Modeling, then you'll get a notice of each one of our shows and be able to see those, as well as right now we have over 400 and some odd recorded videos of our past shows on our channel, New Tracks Modeling. We have roughly, I think it's around 655 subscribers to our website and 700 subscribers to our channel on YouTube. So we are gaining in subscribers. We thank you so much for wanting to participate in our shows. We hope others will also want to participate. We can always use volunteers as the show grows and we expand. We need as much help as we can get. So if you have some time that you could give us to help in the production or the ideas to create things for our shows, please send me an email, jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com, and we can talk about your interest. So that's it. Thanks again. And now for our host for the New Tracks After Show, Clark Cooney, MMR. Clark, welcome.
Hi, Jim. Holy moly, we needed like a parade for that whole announcement.
Well, I waited until the end of the show because we've got such a great start to our show. I'm sorry you missed it this evening.
Yeah, I did. I couldn't get the computer to boot up fast enough anyway. Well, as I said, it's been damn cold up here. It's been minus 30 and that's Celsius, but at like in Fahrenheit, that's still like minus 24 or something. So, hey, everybody.
23.
What?
23.
Oh, whatever. What's a degree between friends? You can see how, if you've never been to the after show, you can see how this turns out. Hey, Peter, have you got audio at least? Hello, Peter. Maybe he doesn't. Okay. Let's see. Who's new here? Who haven't we talked to ever before? Is there anybody here?
Well, Speed.
Well, yeah, he's not new to me, but
Ed's chin whiskers and mustache are new.
Well, that's true. I saw that. It was impressive. And let's see. I think now, Dawn, is this your first time? You have to unmute yourself, I think. I don't know. We can't hear you, Dawn.
You say Doug or Dawn?
Dawn. Not Doug. Hold on. Well, Don's working on his whole radio atmosphere. I don't know. He's got his mic out.
Hey, Clark, we have one of my friends here. I think it's his second time here, but his first time he's been here for the whole show. Lee.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Lee Strussman. Or Lee, sorry, I saw his name now. Where'd it go? So why don't you introduce him, Greg?
He's unmuted. He can introduce himself.
Okay.
No, my name is Lee Stormer. I'm from Aldie, Virginia.
Oh, yes.
It's up in the north part of it, up near halfway between Leesburg and Fairfax, DC area.
All right. And you're modeling HO, Lee, if I remember correctly?
Yep, doing HO. I'm doing the Northern Central Pennsylvania Railroad from the Maryland state line. I ran from Baltimore up to York and Harrisburg and Ole Yard and on up, and modeling the York County section of it.
All right.
And Lee is also on his way getting a couple of APs completed.
Oh, good. Excellent.
I don't know if my volume's on.
Now, yes, Don, we have you now. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Don Warzeniak, Rochester, New York. I'm in SN3. And Clark, years ago, you were at a train show here in Rochester and representing the switch people. And I bought my first thing from you then.
Oh, fast tracks. Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And well, see, there's all 6 of us in the SN3, Don. So
Right.
oh, well, that's great. Good to meet you again and have you on. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show.
Yes, I did.
Good. This is kind of the crazy part. You can just jump in. We yak about anything. And sometimes it's about model railroading. Sometimes it's about other stuff. Sometimes it's the weather. So just jump in and enjoy. Welcome
Clark, how far north are you up in Canada?
Well, I am now about a 6.5 hour drive from Toronto north.
Wow.
I live on top of Lake Huron. So, yeah.
And the big question is why?
Well, that's what everybody said. You're not the only one. Al's laughing. Larry's laughing. When I retired, I really wanted someplace with rock water trees and good fishing. And they also happen to have a model railroad club in town here. So it was like perfect.
Actually, it was better for everybody that Clark moved far away.
Saved Grenadier Pond.
Touche. See,
well said.
See, now everybody's chiming in, Don. Thanks very much.
Yep. I opened Pandora's box, I guess.
How far from the Arctic Circle?
That's the ice box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How far from New York City?
Oh, how far from the Arctic Circle?
Oh,
from the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, he's a lot closer than most of us are.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you, bud, tonight?
Oh, we're good.
Good.
What's that old expression? I spent a week in Elliott Lake one afternoon.
Yes. Hey, Al, did you see that medevac flight today that crashed and the guy put it on its side in a church parking lot or a church field and everybody walked away?
Whereabouts?
Up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah, the helicopter was out of Maryland, and they're flying a child to one of the local children's hospitals, actually an infant. And he was going down and he managed to get everyone to walk away.
Well, you know what they say, any landing you walk away from is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the infant might have been carried, but he's doing good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it looked like everybody survived very well. So,
yeah.
And boy, has he got a story to tell when he grows up.
Yeah, if he can remember. Yeah. I have to ask the usual question that I always ask.
What's
Ed?
Oh, no, not again.
What's for dinner?
Food.
Food, thank you. Hey, Speed, where are you there? Are you still on with us, Speed?
Still down here.
Oh, there you are. Hey, good to see you. Speed and I have talked about his product before, and oh man, it's fascinating. But as one of the guys said, sometimes it goes over your head. Well, for the guys who are electronically, you're probably just smiling and go, "Oh, I can do that." I know there was a couple of interesting. I know Daryl from British Columbia was very interested in what you were saying, Speed. So I don't know, Daryl, did you have any questions directly to Speed?
Yeah, I'll definitely get in touch with you. But I've been trying to find, we've been developing a few different animations to add to our kits and been trying to find a controlling way to do that fairly economically with servos. So yeah, it looks like it'll be a good way to go. So I'll definitely be in touch.
And a quick way to start is to get those PCA 9685 boards and then just plug an Arduino into it.
Yeah.
To get yourself familiar with how.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And it's just we would want to pre-program them for the user at this end. So this looks like it's quite appetizing. So
and then as soon as you swap out the Arduino for the ESP, now you have a website that someone can click on and make changes and say, chop the tree down and let it fall at this rate.
Yeah, and that's kind of, it'd be nice to be able to be, ultimately it would be kind of a open users forum that could take You know, you
Right.
give them the basic animation, get it spread out there. It's easy for them to try, and then they can go and get different scripts from different people. And
But it's,
Daryl,
it's,
what
it's
kind
really
of
cool if you can
animations
bring it
are
up
you-
and control it yourself.
Daryl, what kind of animations are you thinking of adding?
Well-
What's crossed your mind?
well, you know, like we started off with a simple rocking chair animation, just a motor and a cam. But there's a number of different things that we've been looking at, like he says, with tree chopping, or a functioning crane on a deck on one of our kits, or loading a loading dock scene inside a warehouse. There's a number of different things that we're kind of working towards and been trying to play with in between stuff. So it's
What about
like an operating paddle wheel or something?
yeah. Well, actually, we already do that. So.
Oh, you do?
Our big paddle wheeler, we've already.
I haven't built that one yet.
But to add, you know, you'd have to do with Arduino, but soundboards would be the other thing to add to the whole picture eventually. So.
You know what? A good crossing gate that comes down properly with Speed's servos would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need to, with the servos, you need to add some springs. We did that at our club, and we added some springs to it. So you with the servo, you still get those independent notches.
Yeah.
So to smooth that out, we spring loaded it. Plus the guys went nuts, and then they lit up with 402 LEDs that lit it all along the bar as well. So
Years ago, there was a guy who did it with magnets. And it was fascinating because he actually got the bounce at the end. And he wrote it it was in the NMRA magazine, but I couldn't tell you. I want to say it was shortly after the convention in Minneapolis, which I believe was 1990, but I'd love to find that article. And it was too electronic-y for me at the time, but I think now I might be able to maybe almost get it to work. But yeah.
Well, if it uses one less vacuum tube, then you should be okay.
Yeah.
I got a question. This is Fran.
Yeah,
I
Fran.
have a question about when you set up turnouts with a servo. Once you've done that, is there an easy way to manually throw that turnout? Like if you're in a situation where you're not going to run. I know my modular group doesn't want stuff that's not their standard, and they don't use that kind of technology.
So the servo needs to move under electronic control. So when you mean manual, you mean touch a button and that
anything, touch a button. I mean, you can't. You do like a Pico switch that has its own built-in spring. That's going to be out of the question.
Well, so you lift the wire up from the servo and you push on it and it snaps to the other side. So that now it's manual. But if you want it back to where the dispatcher can move it, you gotta put it back into the servo.
Okay.
Because it's intended for electronic control. Now, if you want someone local to control the thing, like in my case, you touch the panel and the turnout moves, or you have a push button that and it toggles it over to the other side.
A push button should work for you, wouldn't it? Because it would be contained in the module for you. Fred.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess the push button would work.
Yeah, you're not talking. You don't need any computers. You don't need per se.
No.
It would be all self-contained, and you would just hit the button.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fran, I thought you lived in California.
Yeah.
Why do you look like you should be living here? You got your hat on.
I think it was Mark Twain. I think it was Mark Twain once said, "A summer he spent in San Francisco was the coldest winter of his life."
Yes. Yes.
I'm in the Bay Area, and
yeah.
I just have a cold room here that I'm growing mushrooms. Culinary mushrooms.
My wife says that to me because she says she feeds me shite and not much sunlight. All right. Who else have we not talked to for a while? Anybody else here? I'm just going through the
Well, I would have to say I'm sort of disconcerted of whatever happened to test view 1.
Who's
Because
test
there's-
view 1?
Yeah, that's
Well, there's the
a
test view.
it's
Oh,
production host monitoring tool.
Oh, it's Chris,
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
it's Chris doing his magic stuff. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, did Daryl Jacobs' slide ever show up? PowerPoint was giving me fits. The art of detail. Daryl, did you see it earlier in the show?
Yeah, it shouldn't be. Yeah, it did show up. That slide. You mean
It did show up? Okay, because I could
Yeah.
show it again because I don't want to cheat you out of seeing the slide.
No, and otherwise people will show up. It's fine.
All right.
Oh boy.
I would have to. I would also. I'm also checking on YouTube, and Heath Hurwitz, which I guess is doing the remote operations, wants to turn around and meet Ted and take his workbenches away because he likes them so much.
Yeah, they're hey, listen, I was lucky enough to see Al Collins do a really cool clinic, and I think we should all put up our hands and say, Al, you got to do it for us. Everybody put up your hand. Okay, Al, you're voted in. Talk to Jim.
What's his clinic?
You can talk to him directly. I'm already in doo-doo with him.
Well, what is it though? What did he do?
Oh, it was all kinds of things. There was like painting details and some tips and tricks on that, and it was good.
Okay.
It's a my build kind of thing, but it's more with fine details and some manufacturers that make some really nice detail parts and how to put them together.
I gotcha.
Maybe I'll do it for one of the my build shows, perhaps.
Oh, okay. I'll send you some dates.
There's a really neat trick if you're modeling O scale, and you use the scribe clapboard siding in O scale. If you use HO 1x10s, they work out to 5/8 by 5.5, which is roughly the right size for clapboard. So you can stick individual clapboards over each section of the milled siding, and it looks pretty nice.
That sounds good.
And you can drive yourself crazy gluing on little sticks of wood.
And with you, that was just a short putt.
Well, yeah, that's true. This is from someone that lives in Elliott Lake.
Hey, see, I have to take my shots when I can because I'm just going to get pummeled otherwise.
Clark, I've been to Elliott Lake.
I know.
But I didn't stay.
Hey, Paul Thompson, you liked it here, didn't you, Paul?
Yeah, I have to admit I liked it there, and I liked going fishing. And but then again, I'm from a small town, so a small city is nice.
Yeah,
you're Orangeville, aren't you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm actually out in the country a bit, just south of Orangeville. And if I'd really, if I was getting a little older, I might even consider moving into Guelph or something like that because I like small cities. And I like small towns.
Yeah, we live out in the country a little bit outside of small town too, in Uxbridge.
Yeah, I've got about a kilometer to actually sort of hit town, if you wanted to call it that. Maybe a little more. But I live on a little lake, and what can I say? I like it. I like the animals.
We have a
mini prints.
Surprisingly enough, Uxbridge is not that far from Toronto, and 2 concessions down from us, we have a black bear that's been living there for several years. My wife had to stop on the way home the other night on the road to let it walk in front of her.
Yeah.
And we're six minutes out of a reasonable sized town.
It's funny, when I first moved here, I used to have 3 dogs at one point, and I would take the dogs out and I would listen. And being, of course, they call it Hillsburg, so there's hills all around, and you can hear things off in the distance. And I knew there was a pack of brush wolves or coyotes or whatever you want to call them, and they would literally move around. And about once every 7 or 8 days, they would be in the bush lot next to me. So I had to keep the dogs kind of close at hand. And then the rest of the time I could let the dogs sort of run because I could hear the wolves and whatever off, you know. And it's kind of neat. And yet I'm within an hour of Toronto.
Yeah, we're about the same. Just you're northwest, we're northeast.
Yeah.
We have a lot of coyotes up here too, or coy dogs. But once a week, there's a new poster up on a lamppost close by or telephone post close by for a missing cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get the same. I got it, Chris. Thank you. So.
Yeah, we got coyotes down here in Scarborough in the parks and deer. In fact, just out on the main street at Brimley and Lawrence, I thought some kids put it up for just a joke. There's a deer crossing sign.
Yeah.
About maybe 60 feet from a lighted intersection, Brimley and Lawrence.
There's actually deer that crossed the 401 or did down around
Mississauga Road.
Yeah, Mississauga Road.
Yeah.
And they had an underpass sort of to get the deer through, or they'd be a real mess.
Yeah.
The thing that I don't know about you guys, but what I've noticed in the last 3 or 4 years is a large increase in possums. There's a lot of possums there. I've seen them. They're kind of nocturnal. So sometimes I see them out in the ditch playing. There's, and on the road they get squished.
I've seen 1 or 2 in the last year.
Yeah, just recently.
Other than one of my absolute nightmares one time, I was driving home in a heavy rain, just outside of Erin, and about 3 or 4 kilometers from home, and it was a driving rain, and my headlights picked up a possum running straight at me. And of course I couldn't brake in the rain and whatever. And the terrified look on his face has bothered me for years. It's just funny how things like that stand out.
My wife came in a few weeks ago and said there was a possum. We have a few horses in a little barn. She said there was a possum in the barn. And she was worried because possums carry some kind of disease that's not too good for horses. She said, so I hit it with a shovel, I killed it, and I threw it out in the manure pile. But we should go bury it. So I said, all right, I went out to the manure pile, and lo and behold, there's no possum. And she said, where is it? I said, think about what a possum does.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would from what I could tell, Bernard from Mini Prints is on YouTube, and you probably just gave him an idea for a new product.
But a possum?
Roadkill.
Yeah, roadkill.
Roadkill and possums. Although possums are they're weird looking. You really want the truth? They're kind of cute, but they're weird looking.
They're like a big white rat.
That's right.
Yeah.
But they're good to have around because they're
You've been out in the bush. You've been out in the country too long if you think a possum's cute.
It was cute. I said they're good to have around. They eat the ticks that, Lyme disease.
That's true too.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Then we need more.
That's right.
I had an uncle in Southern California who, when I came to California in the service, he got me back into trains, and he had a garage layout and the old plaster and cardboard mountain and tunnel. And I was visiting him one day, and he came in the house all really worked up. He said, "There's a damn possum in the tunnel, and it's had babies." He was not about to I guess, try to get rid of the babies, but it destroyed that whole section of the tunnel because they're peeing in there and spreading whatever.
Yeah.
So keep your garage door closed.
Let me see. Hey, Darren, how are you? How's the P48 thinking going?
Okay.
That's good.
It's gotten a lot simpler.
Yeah, well,
And-
yes.
Then what I was trying to do, I'm just building a loop.
Yeah, there you go. At
Did
least
you
you're
sell
doing.
all your HO stuff?
You
I'm
live in
working on
Toronto,
it.
Darren?
Pardon?
You live in Toronto, Darren?
Yes.
Whereabouts?
Brampton.
Hey, where?
Pardon?
In
Brampton.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Clark, we had a meeting for the Greater Toronto train show the other night,
Right.
Yep.
and we tried to have an after show, but we missed you. We're like, yeah, okay, we're done. Hey, Roy, you weren't there to be
Well, you should have called me. I would have made a guest appearance. Let me see. Who else? Oh, did I just see? Hey, Hank, are you there? No, he's not, I guess. Let's see. Who else have we not talked to? Hello, Paul.
Well, hello, sir. Don't talk to that man.
Don't talk to that man. That's right. Mr. Paper Model. Oh my God. Let's see. Who else have we got? Roy, what are you doing on the railroad? Anything?
Well, I was trying to make one of those LT, no, I said wrong, ITLA models, just a little backdrop one. And I was having trouble getting the stain to work the way I wanted it to, but it finally ended up with a little bit of paint and that kind of stuff. Just a whole combination of things, Clark. And to get it to, it's starting to come. I wouldn't say it's finished yet, but it's getting close. It's going to be one of those things that it's good enough, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's about it as far as right now. And I've been, I was doing a mountain in the corner where my coal dump is and trying to get that finished, realized I got too much paint on the wall from the mountain, so I had to repaint the wall. You know, the nice blue shade for sky, and then I'll see what else I'm gonna put on that.
Yeah.
Probably some mountain background drop as well. So that's what I've been doing with it.
Richard, what are you up to? And don't say you're like 6 foot. Where'd he go?
He's on mute.
There.
Bernard,
Can I talk now? Can
There
I
he
talk now? Does anybody hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So I'm working on building a model of a crossing shanty that used to exist in downtown Boise, Idaho.
Oh.
That is one of the sides. That's how small that thing is. So it's going to be a learning experience building something that tiny.
And that's O scale, right?
No, this is HO.
Oh, that's HO. Okay.
Anyway.
All right.
Yeah, that's my.
Do it as me. That'll be small.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
part of
Maggie.
my,
This is Maggie, by the way.
Oh, how you doing,
Hi,
Maggie?
Maggie.
Hey, Joe Poppy.
Taz says hi to Maggie.
Yeah. Okay. Martin, what are you up to in other than trouble?
Trouble and more trouble.
Okay.
I've got 4 now. Four different maintenance away cars being built on my workbench at the same time, and while I'm working on that kit for the build along, I guess that's the Kershaw models kit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's coming along pretty fair.
Cool.
A little funky here and there, but I'll survive.
Are you not enjoying it?
I'm not a fan of building kits. Just me. It's already planned out for me. I know where it's going to go. I know it's going to end up as. There's no mystery. There's no mystery in it. The creativity part of it's been done by somebody else already for me.
Oh,
So
no, you can take a kit and start with a kit and turn it into something completely different.
Oh, I've done that, but I'd like someone to actually be able to recognize it in this case.
Well, yeah, if you're doing a build along, it's kind of
Well,
hard not to.
when it's a build along, I figure I should probably kind of stick close to what it's supposed to be, so
Yeah,
people don't
yeah.
get lost.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm gonna, I'll take a kit and basically just say, well, it's a box of raw materials. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's not going to be what I started with, or what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, box of wood is a box of wood. It's just waiting for something to be built.
Bob, what are you working on or anything? Are you?
I'm working on that build along the 53-foot
Oh, yes.
ferry.
Right.
Having one dickens of a time with a ladder.
That's right. You mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
there's steps, whatever.
Hey, next week when I finish off my build along, I want you to show yours.
Yeah, okay, do that.
Because I think that the way you did the porch is kind of neat. So
yeah, okay, I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. And what else? Who else have we got? John, what are you building? Are you building turnouts or are you building electronics today?
I've been building electronics, so I decided to design a new turnout controller that'll control 16 turnouts using my Arduinos.
Okay.
So Ted talked me into downloading KiCad 6, so I downloaded that, been using that, learning about it. So and laying out the board with that. And I'm treasurer of the water company, so I've been doing a lot of stuff for the water company for the new year, new calendar year. So lots of stuff.
I heard you guys got some rain here the last couple of weeks, eh?
Here? No, we got snow.
Oh, you got snow. Oh, yeah, you're a little higher. No, my brother in Mesa was saying it's rained there a couple of
Yeah,
days.
they got a lot of rain down there. I got a foot of snow and drifts to 2 feet. But half of it's still on the ground. It's not melting fast at all.
You up my Flagstaff?
I was talking to Rick Hunter the other day. He just got back. He was out in BC visiting his granddaughter just before Christmas, and he got caught with the mudslides.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, boy.
He spent 5 days on the side of the road.
Yeah, I traded some emails with them at that time too.
Wow. You're
Said
saying
we're
that-
just above you.
So to get home, I guess they said, well, you can go south because he was on the west side of the mountain. So
They allowed him into the States.
Sorry?
They allowed him into the States and go around?
Yeah, they just sort of opened the border and said go south. So he had to almost go to Los Angeles to get through the mountain because there was so much snow.
Wow.
He had a 7,000-mile detour.
Wow. I hope he enjoyed it.
How well do you know Rick? He's got a great partner to travel with. So
yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That helps. For sure.
How many days did that take? Jeez.
Oh, I don't know. He had just got home and he left before Christmas. So but I was talking to the guys at on the narrow gauge Zoom, and they live, a lot of them live out Seattle way and Washington State, and they said all the mountain passes were full of snow. Even up to last week, you couldn't get through the mountains. There was so much snow. So maybe Elliott Lake's not so bad.
Yeah, we really haven't had a lot of snow. Now the last week we've had like an inch every night, just enough that you have to go out and shovel. Not crazy, but just clean up everything.
I haven't done the driveway once yet this winter. We had green grass a week ago. Well, no snow a week ago. A little bit. Actually, it was raining today down here.
Oh, no, today a lot of guys were out in the lakes. I saw a bunch of guys on machines going for rides on the trails. So there's probably enough snow now in the bush that the trails might be open, some of them, for snowmobiling. So we have almost 700 miles of trails out of the city to go snowmobiling on. So,
wow.
And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy. I'm not, some of these younger guys have these big machines that, you know, when they put the gas to it, they're like nothing but a snowflake and they're gone. I mean, it's, whereas I don't like to go that fast. I've done enough accidents of snowmobile accidents, and so I just putt along and enjoy the scenery. But my machine,
I had to pull two guys. I pulled two guys off Lake Simcoe a while back that were playing chicken.
Oh geez.
Oh gee.
And they didn't turn. They hit head on. So they had a closing speed of about 120 miles an hour.
Wow. Man.
Hey, did you know any of the guys in Sudbury that were the medics and stuff? Because they had a big reunion of the guys who were on the air medics. They posted a picture on Facebook there.
I knew most of the pilots. I didn't know I didn't
Yeah.
know any of the medics.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know if any of the pilots were there actually, but a lot of those guys were from the south, the pilots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right.
Were you in the aeromedical world, Alistair?
Yeah, I was a medevac pilot for quite a while.
Oh, really?
Oh,
he's
and Clark was a medic. We kind of crossed paths.
Yeah, and
we always tried to keep the medics in the back, though. It was better.
used to work in the conversion industry, so we used to convert a lot of those helicopters for medevacs. So we did all the Stars helicopters out this way.
Oh, they used 117s originally.
Yeah, 117 MBBs. So we did all the interior conversions and the incubators.
And then they went to recently. They went up to the Augustus to the 139.
Yeah.
I got a favorite story, Clark. I don't know if I ever told you this one. We were transporting a guy.
Hold on. Let's we'll cut off the live YouTube and we'll go to a private conversation. For those who are watching on YouTube, it's been a pleasure. I hope you maybe come back and attach yourself to the Zoom show or to the Zoom show on New Tracks and subscribe. And we have a lot of fun here, as you can tell. We also have some good information. So we're going to stop the live YouTube and we're going to carry on with the after.